Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Gladius, and we are working on our Impossible Total Conquest campaign with the Tyranids here. Now, I did speed up the gameplay quite a bit here, more than what I typically like to do, but because I'm expecting that we're going to have a bunch of turns where we're going to just be skipping it, waiting for our armies to get built and our cities to be fully functional. I was finding towards the end of that last episode it was just taking too long for the enemy turn to complete because I think there's a bunch of combat going on around the map. So if we're going to be skipping a bunch of turns like we did last time, I think we'll just kind of expedite this a little bit here so there's not as much downtime. But that's now a third faction that's been taken out here. So we'll just keep advancing these guys forward like this. We need to get some more research up, so we'll focus on a little bit of research here so we can get our higher tier units out, because if we are going to end up fighting the Space Marines, which I think is probably the best option here for us, then we're going to need those elite tier units, because the Space Marines are going to hit quite hard and they're going to have their elite tier forces by this late into the game, which means we're going to need to focus on Tyrannifexes and Scythe Hierodules, I think is what they're called. I haven't actually upgraded it yet. And maybe some Hive Tyrants and a couple of Primes, assuming I can get enough influence up. We're getting into a situation now where we're starting to run out of population, so we'll just focus on the population centers here. And we'll keep getting the influence buildings going, so that way I'll get the influence all available to help us be able to kit out our elite tier units. Our heroes, I guess I should say. But as we get more research and we can get the rest of our guys teched out, we're focusing on the Hammer of Wrath because I think the backbone of our first army is going to be more Tyrannifexes, which can be good against the Space Marines anyways, because one, it has range, and then two, it'll help you shoot down the aircraft, because they usually have a bunch of aircraft when they're the Space Marine player, because they only have the one base, so that means they're always going to be making one out of every production facility they have, so that means they're going to get a hero, some sort of infantry, a vehicle, and then an aircraft. So let's get the Trigone going too, because what we may want to do is pop down one of those brood hives right outside our production base here, and then run him up, and then set up another one closer to the Space Marine base, and then we don't have to waste all the turns with them moving through this difficult terrain to get up to the location. Because effectively what happens is you create a tunnel between two or any brood hive. I guess it's not two, it's any brood hive on the map is considered connected, and then you just move over to one square of the brood hive, and then you sacrifice that unit's action points to then warp it to any other brood hive that's on the map. So that can allow for instantaneous travel over significant distances, which can be super nice. Alright, let's just focus on the research, and that should be pretty much everything we're going to need for the rest of the game. Research-wise, that is. I can get the toxin spike, I guess. If we are going to make some, we might as well increase their damage. Yeah, we've got enough biomass saved up here. I think I have enough that I can start making an army. And as we continue to pump out those influence buildings, that'll help us maintain the upkeep cost. Alright, so we've got 3 6, 9, 12 building locations left, so I might need one more population center, and then we're going to be maxed out on this capital city. Because the Tyranid cities are smaller than most other factions. They can only outgrow to 2 squares compared to the standard 3. So you just have to be more cognizant of your population size so you don't build too many of the population centers, because that's one of the major downsides of the cities in this game, is once you build a building you can't deconstruct it and use and put down something else. And I think that's really stupid, because you know, you may rush a bunch of research buildings like what I'm doing right now, but once all your research is done, those research buildings are effectively useless, because you can no longer use any of that research to supplement for anything else, because there's no trading one resource for a different one. It's all or nothing. And then effectively all it's doing is stocking up the resource to help your resource score, but no longer has any effect on the gameplay mechanics themselves. Yeah, as you can see here, this is why I wanted to speed up the gameplay a little bit. It's definitely more than what I typically like to do, but if we're just popping out a bunch of units and building up our cities for, you know, 20 turns, then that's probably going to be what we're going to just... There's no reason for us to stare at the enemy turn screen here. Yeah, see, now I can start getting some of this elite tier stuff out. We'll get some of those trigones so we can get the brood hives out. Yeah, we'll get that one population center, and then we'll just focus on getting our loyalty up, because we are going to want to make more cities. And since we're going to have fixed amount, that means we're going to want to get a pretty big buffer. Now, the question is do I want to spam a bunch of Malanthropes or not? We're not really going to need to worry about research anymore, since we're getting 100 a turn with our 5 research buildings plus our multiple throat buildings as well. But we do want them to be able to found additional cities, and then also to clear out wireweed and other difficult terrain. We should also probably be getting our equipment going for some heroes shortly. So let's just get some, just so I don't even have to worry about it. Well, yeah, the one downside with us not fighting, not only that we stalled out on our research and I had to waste those 5 building slots and the cost of building those 5 locations, but now our prime is no longer leveling up. So if I deleted him and got another one out, he would start as a level 6, whereas now he's capped out at a level 4. But I would end up losing my items that are in his inventory, so that's why I'm not disbanding him. But sometimes what will happen is if you have a low tier hero that gets below where the actual cost is in terms of the turns, because every 10 turns it'll go up 1 level for hero summoning. Alright, I'll pop down that brood hive there. So sometimes it makes sense to get rid of your low tier heroes, especially with the Tyranids, when you can just reclaim them for partial refunds. Assuming you don't have a bunch of equipment on them. Yes, those are pretty good attacks here, actually. Alright, let's keep moving you over here. Alright, I think I actually should have just put it there, because otherwise I'm going to be one movement tile out of the range, and that means we're going to effectively have to waste 2 turns. Alright, let's keep getting our loyalty up here. And it looks like the Brood Hive has a 5-turn cooldown for that ability, which is pretty reasonable. I mean, it's going to take us probably 3 turns just to get them all the way up to the top part of the map. Alright, I can't get much closer than that, otherwise we're going to start aggroing on those Fortresses of Redemption. Let's get rid of the Scroll of Magnus, because now we have our research buildings up. We'll get the Falchions' Wing, and then the Blade. I usually don't try to get these guys the Falchions' Wing, I try to get them more combat-oriented kits. But for these guys, I'm just not sure how much running around the map these guys are going to have to be doing, because you can use that to get them out of a lot of trouble. Yeah, this will be good because we got the influence coming in from the second city. Then we'll get the biomass from the top city, and that top city is also supplementing the research. And then as we push through to kill these space marines, I can then found a fourth city next to that biomass location, and that can be our next city. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. He was going to attack me. Yeah, we'll get that hive Tyrant out because they can be really good, especially this late into the game because they'll be coming out at past level 6, which means they'll get their ultimate ability, and that ultimate ability increases the loyalty of your cities, and that can push it even further. So effectively each one, I think, once it's fully maxed out, gives you +6. So that's more than the loyalty penalty of a city per hive tyrant that you have going. And so that can help you not have to have so many loyalty buildings as well. But then if they all get killed, then you run into a negative loyalty. So again, what I like to do is get a bunch of loyalty buildings. That way we have kind of that baseline rate. And then we have baseline rate covered, I should say. And then we have bonuses coming in from those Hive Tyrants that are still on the map. That will increase the production and resource generation even further. Alright, and now unfortunately we're getting to a situation where we're running out of population here. So we're going to have to probably build some more population buildings and acquire some tiles so we don't run into that negative situation. Alright, we got to slow our army production down a little bit too. And this is how you acquire tiles. So you can see it's like 15 biomass, so it's just got the 15 there, but at the cost of 22.5, that doesn't seem great because there's only 15 there. But if you're having 25 30s, then you're getting more biomass than the influence cost there. But you know, that costs 60, and that's enough for 2 pieces of equipment for our Hive Tyrant, so it just early on in the game I don't think it makes a lot of sense for us. Later, if we just have a plethora of influence that we don't know what to do with, then I think it makes perfect sense to just spam that, especially after you get this assimilation thing going, because then it reduces your cooldown on everything. Alright, so... oh, that's right, their ultimate ability actually buffs the damage reduction and the damage. Then they get the positive movement and then the psychic scream. Alright, let's do something like that. So it's just one of their regular abilities that increases the loyalty. I forgot how that mechanic worked. Alright, so we'll get your loyalty all the way up here too. Alright, and I guess we'll just start spamming research here because I've got pretty much everything that I want. I'd like to have a little bit of a stronger army because I have, what, 2, 4... only 5 Tyrannifexes, so that's not great. Yeah, we definitely fixed the influence issue. But we're going to need to focus on the biomass issue again. So we got that out here. Now I say we fixed the influence, but we technically don't even have enough influence to fully equip our Hive tyrant here. So I guess I should say we've improved the situation there. Alright, we probably got to get more population up here. That's what we were focusing on. We're still net negative population here in our capital, but it only has 2 more population to go. Alright, well, let's finish out our equipment here. Alright, we can start to move you over this way, and we'll just start the war, I think. Alright, so there are the 2 Porches of Redemption down. So I think what I'll do is next episode, I think it's still a little short for me to cut the episode here. I think I've only been playing for like 20 some minutes. So we'll just finish this episode off with the increased speed here, and then I'll turn down the cheat engine speed increase for the next episode, because I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to start fighting again and not just skipping turns for the buildings here, because that just leads to some slow gameplay there. I mean, there's still a lot of research tech here, but not a lot of it that's actually that interesting. But yeah, we're effectively bankrupt, so I can't build more of an army, so this is kind of like my max right now. There's a librarian here. And you could see as I hovered over that armor, you can see all the different damage reductions that are there, because sometimes newer players are confused how that works. They say, oh, it's 9 armor, why am I not doing much damage? It's like that's just only one of the type of damage mitigation. So it's like armor itself can reduce damage. Then you can get like a hero reduced damage situation. And then you can get a range damage reduction, then you can get an invulnerable damage reduction, then there's like a feel no pain reduction, and pretty much all those damage reductions can stack up to 83%, I think is where it maxes out. So it's like you can nullify the armor by getting armor piercing, but that won't necessarily let you get past some of those other damage reduction types. And so if you're finding that you're not doing enough damage, it's either you're attacking a unit with the wrong type of unit, or there's other damage mitigation abilities that are in play that you're not appreciating. And unfortunately the game doesn't really explain that very well, so I find that to be very frustrating for newer players, because they're like, what the hell is going on? Why am I not killing these guys? And Drukhari are like by far the largest offender of that, because they just, with their little potions after they get everything fully upgraded, they can just get insane buffs to pretty much all of their units with the damage mitigation here. But hopefully with this army, as long as the Space Marines don't aggro on top of me here, I should be able to just charge in here and surround and kill this city. Now, unfortunately, most of my army... Alright, well, so much for what I was about to say. I was going to say, as long as they don't get aggroed onto me, I should be able to kill that city without difficulty, but the problem is the cities themselves give you a range damage reduction. So because my Tyranifexes are where most of my army is, that means they're going to have the reduced efficiency against killing the city to begin with. Let's do that to increase their damage and their damage reduction. And let's try to kill the city here too. Alright, good. We're trying to get you up to here to attack the city there. And then hopefully the Tyranifexes can attack the city. Well, we'll try to throw the tropes up here a little bit, with the hope being that maybe they'll attack the tropes, and then that'll save our higher tier damage, because the AI should be thinking, oh, we can easily kill these low tier units here. We'll see though. But I mean, as long as our units are alive, we should get another round of attacks, because we've already almost dropped the city halfway with that first round of attacks. Now, unfortunately, that one Tyranifex is already almost halfway dead. They are definitely not happy about me attacking them here. In fact, I may end up losing my army, but I guess if I can lose the army in exchange for taking out an enemy base, I'd be happy with that trade. Let's get that damage mitigation out again. Alright, try to get everybody over here to attack. Oh, are we really one attack short? Oh my god, I think we are. Oh, I guess we're 2 attacks short. But as long as one of my units survive, I just have to do 4 damage to that city, and the Space Marines are down. And then hopefully we'll get this 4th city up and running, and then that'll be our major biomass generator. Ah, there goes one of my Hive Tyrants. And in fact, with those kills, it actually leveled up the city, which means it's going to have more HP now. But it shouldn't be high enough to out-damage us, or outlive us with another round of attacks. But yeah, you can see the city has leveled up to level 7 now. Because for those who aren't familiar, what happens is cities get HP by the amount of population they have and then by the amount of levels they have, because both of those things will affect it here. But with that, we've now killed the Space Marines, so that's huge. And once the Space Marines are taken out, then it's easier to kill their units because they won't be spamming abilities. Alright, well, hopefully they won't aggro on to me, because if they do, it's going to be a bad time. Because they will be able to kill our units, but what I want is to hopefully move around and capture some of these outposts. So we can start boost our economy further and start replacing our losses for the army. Yeah, I don't know if really any of this stuff is very interesting to me in terms of tech. But hopefully chaos isn't anywhere over here, because then we can just lock down all this area, keep making new cities, and getting all these outposts to boost our economy up. Yeah, that Hive Tyrant getting killed was no fun, because that lowered the loyalty of my cities by 6 for every city. So effectively, if you can get a bunch of those Hive Tyrants going and really helping boost your loyalty, that can help your new cities really overcome those negative loyalty penalties. Alright, that's looking pretty good though. So, obviously because I'm going to be fighting and having some a little more dynamic gameplay, what I'll do is I'll turn down the cheat engine speed up next time. I don't remember if I've talked about that on this playthrough or not, but I do use a program to speed up the gameplay. While I really like turn-based strategy games, one of the downsides to them is I do find that they can sometimes be a little bit monotonous on the end turn situation. And so to really expedite that, what I use is that cheat engine, and it's a free program online. And I do have a video that explains how to use the cheat engine program, but effectively you can use it to hack the game's speed and force it to go faster. Now, newer games are starting to come out with abilities where it just increases the gameplay by itself, so you don't really have to use the speed hack for this, but not all the games do that, and especially because I do like to play a little bit of some of the older games. It doesn't have those mechanics in it, and so this forces the game to go faster. Now, it can overwhelm your CPU depending on how taxing the game is, so just be aware that the faster you make the game go, it can introduce some instability. and certain games really can struggle with the cheat hack because that can lead to some instability issues. So if you like to play like Iron Man playthroughs, I would not recommend using the cheat engine because I have had it occasionally bug out my games before, and so I tend to get some backup save files, and so it doesn't cause an issue. But if you are doing Iron Man where you only have that one save file, that can be disastrous if it bugs out. So just word of caution with that. I find that if you do ×2 speed, I've really never had any issues with games with that, but if you do anything times more than ×2 speed, while games can do it, one, it just makes it go by really, really quick, and so unless you're just trying to play a game that grinds a lot, then it's not a big deal. But obviously I wouldn't want to record a game that's going more than ×2 speed, and this one's actually going ×3 speed here on the turns, which is why it's going so quickly. But again, that's because I was spending so much time just clicking end turn while we were waiting for our cities to go. But now that we're starting to engage in combat and things like that, it can actually be a little bit hard to follow what's happening if it's going too quickly. So I'll turn it back down next episode here. And the other thing I should mention about the cheat engine is it is considered cheating software. So don't use it if you're doing anything online, because a lot of games nowadays will also do some sort of monitoring for cheating. And if you have that on, it'll activate those, what would you call them, monitoring programs, I guess. And then that can get you kicked off of a game, so just be very cautious with that as well. But obviously playing a solo single player game doesn't make any difference. Alright, well, we're going to have this building, this city up and running in the near future, which will be nice. And that'll help fix all of our biomass problems, and so we can get a better army out. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to call it quits this next turn here. And then as we're fighting, like I said, I'll turn that game speed down a little bit just because I know it can be hard for people to follow what's happening once it's going this fast, especially now that there's some more dynamic gameplay happening. And if you're ever finding that I have a game speed turned up too quickly and it's really annoying you, on YouTube you could see a little gear icon on the video. That's traditionally used to speed up videos, but you can actually slow down videos as well, so you can always turn the game speed down a little bit if it's annoying the shit out of you too much. Because I do every once in a while find somebody that's not used to watching sped up gameplay and they're like, this is terrible, I can't stand it. It's like, well, that is an option if it's annoying you too much. Because early on when I started making videos, I didn't understand how to change gameplay and speeds on different things. So you'll find like some videos will have me talking super fast, and then they'll go back to normal speed, and then so like my speech was getting sped up at different times because the program was changing the game speed when I was doing the editing process. And then other times the cheat engine program would do it, so it just got to be very problematic until I kind of figured out how the process worked a little bit better. So definitely if you watch some of the older videos, you'll all of a sudden find me like talking incredibly quickly for a little bit of time, and that's because two different editing programs altered the speed, and so it would be additive to each other, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be like, well, instead of ×2 speed, it's like been turned up to 3 times speed, and you're just like, what the hell is going on here? So with this, I'm going to call quits for the day. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please give my channel a like and subscribe to encourage me to post more content for you. Have a great day.